I'm pleased this morning to call this hearing to order. We often talk about the role that small businesses play in creation of jobs. And with good reason. Small firms generate between 60 and 80% of new positions. Following the recession in the mid-1990s, they created 3.8 million jobs. With unemployment expected to reach 9.8% in 2010, we could use that growth today. But unfortunately, many firms are struggling to make ends meet. Let's allow them to hire new workers. In the face of historic economic challenges, we should be investing in America's job creators. SBA's Entrepreneurial Development Programs, or ED, do just that. Of all the tools in Small Business Toolbox, these are some of the most critical. They help small firms do everything from drafts business plans to access of capital. Today, we will reauthorize and enhance ED. The 7 bills before us will not only modernize the program, but will make it work for our entrepreneurs. At this time, I will now yield to the ranking member for his opening statement.
Good morning, and thank you, Mr. Chairman, for the opportunity to mark up critical legislation aimed at making entrepreneurial development programs more effective and responsive to the needs of small businesses. At a time when small businesses are struggling to stay afloat, we must work to improve the usefulness of these initiatives. Rather than relying so heavily on the government to spend our way out of this recession, we need to focus on ensuring our small businesses, truly engines of job creation, are able to utilize all the resources already available. As a small business myself, I am pleased to introduce a bill that will assist my many fellow small business owners and employees throughout my district in Missouri and all throughout the country. 2 out of every 3 jobs created in the U.S. are created by small businesses. And like every recession before, small businesses will lead the way this time to economic growth, determination, and innovation. H.R. 1842, the Expanding Entrepreneurship Act of 2009, makes several changes to the SBA's entrepreneurial development programs. My bill aims to expand entrepreneurial job growth by pulling resources for duplicative government programs into a streamlined program to help emphasize job creation and retention. Specifically, this bill requires the SBA to develop a job creation strategy for 2009 to 2010, including the agency's intent for using existing programs to create and retain jobs throughout the United States. The SBA administrator will also be required to collect measures related to the program performance and job creation, ensuring that existing programs are being used effectively and duplicative government programs are done away with, and to ensure easy access for entrepreneurs. A database of providers of entrepreneurial development services will be established. As our country continues to address the economic problems hurting our families and businesses, we should be growing our small businesses instead of hindering them with unwanted tax increases. I know that the House Small Business Committee and this subcommittee recognize how critical small business is to the economic health of this country. That is why I want to thank my colleagues for their commitment to sponsoring various pieces of legislation to improve programs that assist entrepreneurs with practical and technical skills needed to start and sustain a business. As Louis Selly, CEO of the Northeast Veterans Business Resource Center in Boston, put it at a recent subcommittee hearing on this same subject, this committee has exactly the right focus by wanting to interweave these programs together and really force everybody to play in the same sandbox. And by making entrepreneurial development programs more effective, we can be not only more responsive to small businesses, we can also be better stewards of taxpayers' dollars. I'm pleased to see my bill and my colleagues' similar pieces of legislation working their way through the legislative process, and I look forward to seeing this bill become law. With that, I yield back, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, sir. Are there any other member who wish to be recognized for the purpose of opening remarks? The first order of business we will consider H.R. 1803. That is the Veterans Business Center Act of 2009, introduced by Representative Nye. As of today, more than 130,000 troops have returned from Iraq and Afghanistan. Many of these men and women are now pursuing entrepreneurships. In fact, veterans already comprise 14% of all self-employed Americans. Mr. Nye's legislation gives these men and women a chance to become business owners. It does this by establishing a new Veterans Business Center program. This step will provide veterans the dedicated counseling, and business training. Our soldiers have served our country well and deserve a fair shot at the American dream. For that reason, this bill has the backing of both the American Legion and the VFW. I strongly support this legislation. Are there any members wish to be recognized? The committee will now move to consider H.R. 1803. The clerk will report the title of the bill.
To amend the Small Business Act to establish a Veterans Business Center program and for other purposes.
The committee now moves to consider H.R. 1803. I'm sorry. I ask unanimous consent that the bill in its entirety be open for amendments at this point. Does any member seek recognition for the purpose of offering an amendment? Seeing no amendments, the question is on reporting H.R. 1803 to the full committee. All in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The bill is adopted and reported to the full committee. In terms of ED programs, it's not enough to have the proper tools in place. We should be certain that small firms can access those tools. Representative Thompson's bill, H.R. 1807, will make that happen. The Education Entrepreneurials through today's Technology Act provides business owners with critical distance learning tools. These resources are particularly useful for businesses in rural areas, which may not have the same range of services that other regions do. Through H.R. 1807, entrepreneurs in every corner of the country, from Appalachia to East LA, can access training and resources they need. I urge a strong support of this legislation. I will now recognize Mr. Thompson for his remarks.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Ranking Member. Thank you for holding this markup today to focus on the entrepreneurial development programs that will strengthen SBA's capacity to continue to spur economic growth in hard-to-reach areas and underserved areas. For many entrepreneurs in my district, in order to access resources provided by SBA and small business development centers, they have to drive long distances, often through some pretty tough winters in Pennsylvania. In my rural district, we have learned to use our limited resources wisely. And during the hearing for the bills we've marked up today, I had the privilege of having a witness from my district, Mrs. Donna Kilhofer, the program manager for the Community Education Council of Elk and Cameron counties in Pennsylvania, which provides affordable academic and professional development by partnering with institutions of higher learning, along with countless additional partnerships with regional businesses and industry. My bill, H.R. 1807, will assist distance learning programs like those serviced by the Community Education Council in order to enhance the potential of existing and soon-to-be entrepreneurs. H.R. 1807 will allow third parties the opportunity to provide high-quality distance training through a modest competitive grants process administered by the SBA. And I appreciate the work the committee has done on this bill, and I'd like to thank the bill's co-sponsors, Mr. Lukemeyer, Mr. Connolly, and Mr. Pitts. And Mr. Chairman, I encourage my colleagues on the subcommittee to support this smart government proposal, and with that, I yield back the balance of my time.
Thank you, sir. Are there any other members wish to be recognized on H.R. 1807? The committee will now move to consider H.R. 1807. The clerk will report the title of the bill.
To provide distance learning to potential and existing entrepreneurs and for other purposes.
I ask unanimous consent that the bill in its entirety be open for amendments at this time. Does any member seek to be recognized in the purpose of offering an amendment? Seeing no amendments, the question is on reporting H.R. 1807 to the full committee. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The bill is adopted and reported to the full committee. Entrepreneurship is a proven means of fighting poverty. It can also revitalize struggling communities across this country. Nowhere is it more important than within the Native American populations. With that in mind, Representative Kirkpatrick has introduced H.R. 1834, the Native American Business Development Enhancement Act of 2009. Although Native American businesses are growing at an impressive rate of 84%, clearly we'd like this trend to continue. For that to happen, entrepreneurs must have access to critical counseling and technical assistant resources. H.R. 1834 contains provisions for both. I urge its support. I will now yield to the bill's sponsor, Representative Kirkpatrick, for her remarks.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for this opportunity to consider my bill, the Native American Business Development Enhancement Act. Our tribal communities make do with less even when times are good. And in these tough economic times, we can do more to help them build their communities and develop their local economies. This bill will accomplish that by expanding the assistance available to Indian, Alaska Native, and Native Hawaiian small business entrepreneurs under the Small Business Act by providing essential training and assistance and making it easier to get the capital they need to start up or grow their businesses. The measure will be a boon to our Native populations, helping to grow their economies and creating new jobs. And I yield back.
Thank you, Ms. Kirkpatrick. Are there any other member wishing to be recognized on H.R. 1834? The committee will now move to consider H.R. 1834. The clerk will report the title of the bill.
To amend the Small Business Act to expand and improve the assistance provided to Indian tribe members, Alaska Natives, and Native Hawaiians, and for other purposes.
I ask unanimous consent that this bill in its entirety be open for amendments at this time. Does any member seek recognition for the purpose of offering an amendment? Seeing no amendments, the question is reporting H.R. 1834 to the full committee. All in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The bill is adopted and reported to the full committee. The next piece of legislation that we will consider is H.R. 1838, the Women's Business Center Act, introduced by Representative Fallon. Women's business centers go a long way to fostering entrepreneurship. H.R. 1834 will provide this organizations with needed stability. Through technical assistance and counseling, the bill will also renew the program's original mission, balancing low-income communities. We often talk about moving women from welfare to work. Women business centers can move them from welfare to entrepreneurship. This legislation will build a program's strong track record of encouraging entrepreneurship, and I urge its support. Are there any member who wish to be recognized on H.R. 1838? The committee will now move to consider H.R. 1838. The clerk will report the title of the bill.
To amend the Small Business Act to modify certain provisions relating to women's business centers and for other purposes.
I ask unanimous consent that the bill in its entirety be open for amendments at this time. Does any member seek recognition for the purpose of offering an amendment? Seeing no amendments, the question is on reporting H.R. 1838 to the full committee. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The bill is adopted and reported to the full committee. Mentoring programs are vital resources, not just for new entrepreneurs, but for experienced business owners looking to grow. The next piece of legislation recognizes that fact. H.R. 1839, or the SCORE Act, modernizes networking and mentoring within the SCORE program. The bill introduced by Representative Buchanan establishes benchmarks for measuring program efficiency. It does this by qualifying the success of entrepreneurs who participate in its initiative. It also establishes standards for mentoring. This bill will ensure the highest quality of service for our small businesses, and I strongly urge its support. Are there any members who wish to be recognized on H.R. 1839? The committee will now move to consider H.R. 1839. The clerk will report the title of the bill.
To amend the Small Business Act to improve SCORE and for other purposes.
I ask unanimous consent that the bill in its entirety be open for amendments at this time. Does any member seek recognition for the purpose of offering an amendment? Seeing no amendments, the question is on reporting H.R. 1839 to the full committee. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The bill is adopted and reported to the full committee. The next bill we will consider is H.R. 1842, Expanding Entrepreneurship Act of 2009, introduced by the ranking member, Mr. Lukemeyer. This legislation streamlines SBA's ED profiling by increasing coordination and planning. Even more importantly, it focuses on job creation. The economy may be struggling, but these programs can help new businesses get off the ground, allowing them to create jobs and spur growth. I urge strong support of this bill, and I commend the ranking member for his efforts of drafting this legislation. Are there any member wish to be recognized on H.R. 1842? The committee now moves to consider of the bill H.R. 1842. The clerk will report the title of the bill.
To amend the Small Business Act to improve the Small Business Administration's entrepreneurial development programs and for other purposes.
I ask unanimous consent that this bill in its entirety be open for amendments at this time. Does any member seek recognition to offer for the purpose of offering an amendment? Seeing no amendments, the question is on reporting H.R. 1842 to the full committee. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The bill is adopted and reported to the full committee. As our last piece of business, we will consider H.R. 1845. This bill, the Small Business Development Center Modernization Act of 2009, has been introduced by Representative Schock. Entrepreneurial assistance is critical for small business tools. In fact, businesses that receive this kind of help are twice as likely to succeed. Though Mr. Schock's bill will reform the current SBDC program, in doing so, it will not only provide existing initiatives, but it will help firms address new challenges. While focused on these types of concerns, the legislation provides much needed tools for entrepreneurs. It helps them remain competitive in today's market. It also helps them adapt the challenges of the economic climate today. I urge the members' support of this legislation. Is there any member wish to be recognized on H.R. 1845? The committee will now move to consider H.R. 1845. The clerk will report the title of the bill.
To amend the Small Business Act to modernize small business development centers and for other purposes.
I ask unanimous consent that the bill in its entirety be open at amendments at this time. Does any member wish to seek recognition for the purpose of offering an amendment? Seeing no amendments, the question is on reporting H.R. 1849 to the full committee. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The bill is adopted and reported to the full committee. This concludes the subcommittee business for today. I ask unanimous consent that the subcommittee is authorized to correct section numbers, punctuations, cross-references, and make necessary technical and conforming corrections on this bill, the bills considered today. Without objection, so ordered. This markup is adjourned.